Good morning. I am coming to you from my basement. I've been working on our school room slash just school storage room. And it's time to vlog our Charlotte Mason week 11. There is 1 week left. I have some coffee. It's actually Sunday. I usually was posting on Friday or Saturday, but I just got overrun with things to do. And so at the moment, my husband is up flying his plane with his uncle, and the kids are still sleeping. And I thought, you know what? I just washed my hair. I gotta let it dry before I finish getting ready for church, and I might as well come on and chat because I have some thoughts. Okay, so this week I want to talk to you guys about some observations that I'm making about Charlotte Mason education, as well as some things that are really making me reflect and look at myself, and in my intentions and my motivations and some heart stuff. And then what some goals are in that regard to look forward to. So I'm really excited to share about this with you today. We've decided to try Charlotte Mason education style for 12 weeks and see what sticks. Okay, so how did week 11 go? Week 11 went well. So last time I had talked to you guys about we got home and we kind of just took everything that was left on our term that we haven't done yet, and I reorganized it into how we're going to get it done into 3 weeks. Our math is done for the year, so that's great. We're done that. We're just kind of keeping going with grammar. We are on schedule to finish the books that we were doing, wrapping up our Age of Enlightenment study, which turns out I don't know if we'll be done Age of Enlightenment come next year because I have more things that I'm learning about the Age of Enlightenment in a more philosophical way. Uh-oh. I don't know if you guys, maybe I can blur out some background noise. The thing is, I thought I could record down here, but this is my furnace room on the other side of this wall, and I put these cool mesh things. These are actually shelving things from the shop, and that my husband didn't want because he replaced them with plywood, and he gave them to me. So they're buzzing behind me against the vibration of the furnace room because the furnace just kicked on. We'll see. I'm just gonna roll with it, and hopefully I can reduce the background noise. Okay, anyways, so where was I? So the week went really well. We're wrapping things up, kind of tickety-boo. I feel like I don't want to exhaust exactly what we did because it's the same as I've shown you in previous vlogs. But let's talk a little bit about something that I am discovering about Charlotte Mason education, and thoughts on that. So one of the things that I've really noticed is that before this, I really separated Charlotte Mason education and classical education. I just, in my mind, those are two different things. And they can be, they kind of are, but they also have so much crossover. There are tons of families that are classical. I've been listening to podcasts and reading books and stuff like that and watching YouTube videos. There are tons of families that are classical that read Charlotte Mason and love Charlotte Mason. And there are Charlotte Mason families who follow classical style. So here's what I'm noticing. So I'm kind of at the point where I'm I like both. I like classical and I like Charlotte Mason. I never would have said that before though, because my impression of classical education before was rigorous. Those are the families, they memorize everything, they have all the songs that go with all the war histories, and they're, I have friends who do classical, and I just feel like they put more hours into really hardcore learning, which sometimes works great for them and all the time. Honestly, classical education, when I talk to other families, they love it, okay? But I just thought, oh, it's just too rigorous. And what I find reading Charlotte Mason, and I still have to read her volume 6, by the way, but I read her volume 1, and I just feel like Charlotte Mason was a little bit more classical, yes, and classical books and good literature, but also slow down, get outside. Nature's a great teacher. So I think that classical has that a little bit, but that's where I'm seeing if I had to contrast them. The other thing about, I'm gonna put this down because I talk with my hands. I have a lot of sun on my face right now. The other thing is that I am seeing and reading and hearing from classical families, and there are those that are in the rigorous camp, and there are those who are actually in the slow down, soak in camp. And I I'm more, I think I'm gravitating to this one. You know, I don't know what will happen in the future, especially as my kids get older too. But I am loving the classic books. I'm loving Plutarch. I never would have thought I would say that. In fact, I have a whole bunch of lists of books that I've never heard of that are classic literature. I am soaking them in myself because I had to come back for just a second. I'm gonna slice this in. Something else that I forgot that I really wanted to be vulnerable about was my use of the dictionary. I kind of alluded to that at one point in my recording, but um, I grew up in a home who loved books. My mom and dad and my sister read all the time. I did not. I hated books. It was like pulling teeth. I will watch the movie first anytime, every time. Maybe not now, but definitely growing up. And so, one other vulnerable, humble piece that I should add to is like while I've been reading um, Plutarch and I'm reading The Abolition of Man right now by C.S. Lewis, and I've had to use the dictionary. Like there's some words that just seem like really commonly known. I've heard them a million times, but I don't know what they mean. And so I also just wanted to give an encouragement to you. Like sometimes when you're talking to people who do classical education or Charlotte Mason education, they have this really fancy vocabulary that sounds so smart. And I am the person guilty of being like, oh yeah, uh-huh, yeah. And I don't know what they're like. I get what they're saying, but I'm not 100% sure on all these really key words. And so I just wanted to say, if you are a mom too who is getting out your Google phone or your dictionary, probably Google, to look up some of these words, you are not alone. And I think that it's a good thing. Like let's be willing to be learners in that and not worry about whether we know something before or not. Let this be like a journey of ours that we expand our knowledge too. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that in there because it was something that it's a real thing for me. And it has had me swallowing a humble pill, really. And it's something that it shouldn't be, but I've been embarrassed about. And I don't think that we should be. I want to get away from that. I think that's a terrible thing that we attach to it. So anyway, back to the video. I've been a big proponent for years now of being the lead learner of my kids. That is my teaching style. I am a lead learner. I will be completely vulnerable with you guys, and I will admit that I do not retain information easily. I don't know if I have a touch of spectrum or what, but I need to like see it, feel it, hear it, watch it, tell it. Like I have to use all my senses to retain information. I know I have at least one child like that. My oldest child, however, is like his dad, and they can read a book and they can remember the whole thing for life. Lucky them. So, anyways, my teaching style leads very like it's lead learner because I am learning alongside my kids. In this case, I'm reading a lot of classic literature on my own, and I feel like that's going to set me up for the future. So my mother education, even though it's still in my own interests, I'm still interested in forestry and gardening and dendrology and stuff like that. I'm also reading Plutarch on my own, and I'm reading some C.S. Lewis right now. I just finished The Great Divorce, which was very good. I like that book a lot. And I'm reading The Abolition of Man right now. I'd also like to take a minute to talk a little bit about attitude, the heart stuff I was telling you about. So one of the things that I have noticed, and I don't want to sound judgy because that is not what I want to be at all. I want to have like grace for everybody. That's you do you, that's fine. And God has been working on my heart in the last year or so to just have dump buckets of grace on people, to stop getting annoyed at people and that kind of thing. So that's like a personal thing that I've been working on with Jesus. But one of the things that I have noticed, mostly listening to podcasts and talking to people who are very deep into the classical education, I'm seeing two things. I'm seeing people who are very humble and come at it humbly and are excited and joyful about it and excited to share it with you, excited to inspire you to maybe consider it. But then I'm also seeing people, this seems to be a trend, and which no kidding, they kind of have like this academic chip on their shoulder. And it seems that when you get really heavy into classical literature, you automatically start talking with a different vocabulary, a bigger vocabulary, perhaps a more complex vocabulary. You sound really smart. Like it's there's this one channel that I watch on YouTube and I love it, but I have to take her in chunks because I feel like she comes across so amazing that I just feel dumb at the end of the video. Like I love it. I love what she's doing. I think she's super helpful. But she speaks in words that I have to Google, like literally. And I don't want to become someone after, hopefully getting into classic literature and joining the great conversation, which I just learned what that is. I should share that too. But I don't want to do that. And I'm just seeing some things that I want to avoid. My personality, again, I'm going to get vulnerable with you guys. I have been and can get into that mind space where I think I'm better than everyone else. I've struggled with that in the past, especially in terms of like church and religion and whatever. And I feel like I have had to mature and grow out of that. But that was my 20s, like especially early 20s. And so I don't want to slip into a place where I get really haughty, And anyway, so it's just something, it's an observation that I've been making. And I really want to approach classical education humbly with with a humble attitude. And when I share about it, I really want to come at it with a humble attitude. And I do think that's a little bit contrast to my human tendencies. So that's something that I've identified that I want to remember at the forefront of my memory and my heart as we go forward, because I do think it's looking like we're going to stick with a lot of this sort of style. I want to save sort of my total recap and plans for the summer and going forward for next week, but I've been really searching my heart this week about loving this, but as far as being good persons and developing good persons and raising good persons, this is just something that I've just like, oh, let's remember this. We got to make sure that we're doing that well as well. Humble attitude. Anyways, so that is a goal of mine that goes beyond all the Charlotte Mason habits. Let's see. So the great conversation, I should just speak to that really quickly because I just learned what that means. I've heard people talk about it, and I think I kind of had an idea of what it was, but I heard it explained really well on a podcast the other day. And so the way it was explained was, if you're, I'm going to totally paraphrase. Hopefully I don't butcher it, but I think the definition is going to come through true. If you are a young person coming to a table of adult conversation, usually your first step as a young person is to come to the table and to sit and to listen for a while. You want to listen to what the conversation is about, what the opinions of the other adults at the table are, what their opinions are and what they're talking about. And after you've sat at the table for a while and understood what the conversation is and what the different viewpoints are, you start to form your own thoughts. And after sitting there for a while, then you may have that desire and you may have your own thoughts that blossom, and then you want to contribute that, and then you join the conversation. So in the same way, the great conversation is like you sit with classic literature in this case, and you want to spend some time listening to the conversation. You don't necessarily have to agree with it, but you sit for a time, quiet, listening, trying to understand what the conversation is, getting various authors and books so that you're hearing multiple viewpoints, and then starting to formulate your own addition to the conversation. And I just thought that was a beautiful description. I loved it so much. And so now I understand a little bit better what the great conversation is. Anyways, so it's going to be interesting. I'm excited to talk next week kind of about our plans going into the summer and then the fall. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to share that. I also thought, like, I wonder if there's any other vulnerable things that I could share. Narration has been going all right. But I have the things that I battle that I battled this week too was trying to not just check the boxes, because right now I've taken all the things that we wanted to do. I've put them into these last 3 weeks, and I really want to get them done by the end of next week. So I've been trying to do that without devaluing our time, without rushing through things. So that has been a challenge, and I've had to remind myself of that. The other thing is, even things like we were getting really good when we were reading it. Like anytime there was any kind of geography talked about, we get out the globe and we point to it on the globe, and we get out our timeline and put like their time references or like people in history. We get out our timeline and put them in there. We haven't been doing a great job of that this week. We actually went through so much reading this week, and I realized that was great, but we actually, and we did narration, but we didn't take our time for our timeline this week and and pulling down the globe from the shelf and looking. And that was something that at the beginning of this, I was like, yeah, this is something like this is essential that we have to do. So there are still habits that are bumpy that we are still getting into, and they can come. I'm confident that they will come, but I do feel like it's been a little bit of like try to juggle all these balls in the air. They're all the new habits that we're trying to remember to do and do well and have like work together. And I feel like a really terrible juggler sometimes. So that's the honest truth. So I think we are on track to like finish. And we're gonna keep working on those habits. And I'll talk more about next time about sort of the habits that I'm trying to flesh out for us to work on in the summer when we don't have like a timetable to follow and that kind of thing. But yeah, so that is this week's update. I think I'm going to wrap it up there. Those are my thoughts. I hope that being vulnerable on here is a good thing. I do get concerned sometimes. I'm a sensitive person, sometimes a little oversensitive. And so it's scary a little bit for me to be vulnerable and to say what I'm really thinking. But at the same time, why am I here then sharing if I'm not going to be vulnerable? And I might as well. So I'm feeling that this week. And I'm just in the mood to just share from my heart what I'm observing, what my goals are for not just our homeschool, but for my heart and for our attitudes and stuff like that. So approaching Charlotte Mason classical education, hopefully with a lot of humility. That is at the forefront. And yeah, so that's this week, and we will talk to you guys next week. I think next week my plan is to probably combine the like my month end recap with the next week's vlog, because I'm pretty much going to be talking about the same stuff. So I've been trying to every month do like a recap and review. So just recap the past month, and then not review, recap and plan, and then plan forward what's going to happen. So I'm going to probably do our like 12-week last vlog in the same video as that one. So look for the recap and plan video. And that should be kind of our final like Charlotte Mason experiment vlog video, and then we'll have to come up with some good ideas in the future. If you have been following this, I've actually gotten more messages than usual. Like I usually don't get very many messages, especially from YouTube. But I've been getting very encouraged from this community to like this, keep going, keep sharing. And so I would like to know, I always want to share what I want to share. But if there are specific things that would be helpful to see, then like let me know. You can comment, or you can contact me at dwellinglogs@gmail.com. But that's just something that I kind of want to, I don't want to just be noise. I actually want to be inspirational and helpful if I can be too. So it's always nice to know what communities are looking for, and then I can share my spin on it, I guess. So anyway, okay, have a really happy Sunday, and we will talk to you next week.